Hello there guys, what is going on? Son of Chelsea back here again for another edition of Let's Talk Chelsea. Hope you're doing well and keeping safe on this Wednesday, another day closer to the start of the Premier League season. So close now, I've been sort of taking in a lot of the previews, like non-Chelsea football stuff, because I think personally I've obviously been so invested in pre-season and kind of hearing what's going on at the different clubs and how they're feeling ahead of the new season. And of course, Saturday it's an interesting game at Goodison Park, a place we don't usually play very well. But we're getting closer now. We may get the new kit because obviously Chelsea can't play in their first choice one on Saturday at Goodison Park. And obviously seeing that opening lineup, seeing Thomas Tuchel's press conference on Saturday, the mood, because I think for a lot of us, in regards to transfers and the way pre-season has gone, you want that mood lifted, and hopefully we can get a great result at the weekend to start the season off in the best possible way. But in today's video, it's all about transfers once again, and just kind of how busy Chelsea have been in recent days. It was kind of said at the start of the week, this is going to be a massive week for Chelsea. They're going to be really busy, and you're kind of like a little bit skeptical. You're like, yeah, I've heard stuff like that before, and you know how long these deals take to get done. But it really does feel like Chelsea and Todd Bowley especially, is trying to get things done. So we're going to get into that, a number of players, and as well 2 confirmed deals for exciting young talents that Chelsea released last night, which I think were really interesting. I mean, one of them we knew about for months already. The other one was completely out of the blue, and it really is an intriguing sort of signing, I think, for the way it's going to turn out this season at Chelsea. But make sure, guys, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the uploads on the channel. But let's start off with David Ornstein's piece in The Athletic this morning about Cucurella, but also about Frenkie De Jong. So, of course, we knew, and I said this in my last video about Chelsea's chase for Cucurella, how advanced talks were, personal terms don't seem to be an issue, but there still is kind of a little bit of a wait to see if Brighton are going to take Chelsea's offer of 50 million. Brighton have not accepted the bid for Cucurella as they seek a higher fee and a replacement, with Chelsea's Levi Colwill their preferred candidate in what would likely be a separate transaction. And just a little bit here on De Jong, Chelsea are also hoping to beat a domestic rival to another player, having rivaled Man United in the contest to recruit Dutch playmaker De Jong. They are speaking to Barcelona about the 25-year-old and are optimistic of striking a deal. United previously reached an 85 million club-to-club agreement for De Jong, but the Netherlands international has not yet made a decision. Let's start with Cucurella. I said the other day, I think it was a little bit wild how it came out of the blue, but I like the player. I think he does tick a lot of boxes. I understand people's concern. I mean, my biggest concern about this is the knock-on effect to Levi Colwill, but as I said the other day, I think people should know my opinion on that situation right now. But in terms of the player, in terms of the knock-on effect of players leaving the club because he arrives, if he arrives, Marcos Alonso and Emerson, the most obvious, and the interesting things tactically that I think Tuchel could do with Cucurella. I looked a little bit at it for Football London the other day, and I just think, you know, the different formations, if Tuchel wants to play a 4-4-2, because if you track back to Cucurella's time at Getafe, he did play further up the pitch, kind of as a left winger at times, and you think potentially both him and Chilwell could play on the same pitch, you know, with Cucurella potentially playing as a left centre back, but also maybe in front of Chilwell. So I think with what he offers, and I think a lot of the time last season we were kind of calling for more wing back cover, and just a sense, particularly in those key positions on both flanks, the lack of consistent profiles. And Cucurella, although he costs a lot and potentially again could have negative impacts, maybe in a different way, I think he offers a lot and ticks a lot of boxes. And, you know, I just feel that, you know, I said this to someone last night, that we've gone round about houses with a lot of transfer business this summer with Chelsea, and it has kind of felt very chaotic. But as Matt Law said on the London is Blue pod today, it was always going to be like this. It was always going to be a pretty busy window for Chelsea. But if we end up, say, with Cucurella, Raheem Sterling, Kalidou Koulibaly, and a centre-back, preferably Wesley Fofana, if those were kind of the 4 signings, or at least the 4 main signings, we could have a few more to sprinkle onto the squad before deadline day. I think that's a pretty good run of signings, to be honest. I think that looks pretty sensible, or at least looks compatible with what Thomas Tuchel wants to do with the Chelsea squad. But it just, of course, has not felt like that. It hasn't felt like a sort of a very clean-cut strategy. Chelsea have had to go from target to target. They've had to go with separate deals to try and make things happen again in a really congested period because of the takeover. So hopefully Cucurella gets done, because as I say, I think there needs to be a knock-on effect for Alonso, Emerson sorting out their futures, and then to see how Cucurella would be used, because it'd just be really demoralising. Another deal falls through in a summer where a lot has fallen through for Chelsea at a very late stage. In the case of De Jong, I spoke about him on the channel a few weeks ago. Personally, with what it would probably take to get De Jong out of Barcelona, I don't know the value in this deal for Chelsea, because, you know, with a certain other midfielder that I'd like to see Chelsea sign, and if you can't get that deal done this summer for a similar fee that would get you probably to the table with West Ham to do that in the first place, for me, that's where I'd be ploughing money in central midfield. But again, just promoting a piece I did for Football London, I did sort of a Wyscout look at De Jong, and kind of looking back to what Tuchel did with Julian Weigl at the base of Borussia Dortmund's midfield. And maybe that's what De Jong could do for Chelsea. But, you know, he is not a profile that I think this midfield desperately lacks. You could argue creatively, but I think that what I'd be doing in midfield would be slightly different in terms of recruitment. And it very much feels like with De Jong, his preference is to stay at Barcelona and get paid. And to be honest, for every single player at Barcelona who needs to get paid and his own money, I'd be sticking around and absolutely digging my heels in and wanted to get that money, because that is a lot of money he is owed, like a lot of players. And I think Barcelona, as cruel as it sounds, you know, not against their fans or anything, but it's like their ownership, their hierarchy has acted in this reckless way, and I think there's got to be at least some punishment for it, or at least the after effect of it, of paying this amount to so many players and then not having the plan to pay them, and not, you know, and even this summer, you know, I'm seeing something from a Barcelona reporter, as I'll call them, earlier, saying that if Chelsea were to sign De Jong, it would give Barcelona the sort of leverage to then go and buy Bernardo Silva, and it's just like this constant spending from them, and the amount of players who are owed money and are in so many awkward situations there. So we'll see on that front, because it kind of feels like that could drag a lot longer than any other deals we're speaking about today. Let's get into the two signings, because I think both of these are interesting. So Gabriel, Slonina from Chicago Fire. We knew about this for several months. My colleague at Football London, Adam Newsom, was reporting about this back in June or July, I think it was, maybe even a little bit earlier than that, like really at the start of the window, that Chelsea had kind of felt close to a deal for this player before the sanctions hit. And then there was a lot of competition for him. It was kind of going back and forth. Real Madrid were interested in him earlier in the window, but we finally got this deal done. He was confirmed last night as a Chelsea player. The 18-year-old joins from Chicago Fire, where he will return on loan to complete their season before moving to London at the start of 2023. If he is going to come in January, I'd be pretty stunned if he becomes the second choice goalkeeper to Edouard Mendy. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen, but if Kepa does go to Napoli on loan, I suspect that Chelsea will try and sign someone before the end of this window. They're just kind of risking it maybe for a few months. Maybe they'll look at it and go, we can risk it till November, till the World Cup. We'll have to wait and see. But I think it's a good deal, and hopefully he turns into a very, very good goalkeeper, because this is kind of a low-risk deal, I feel, for Chelsea. And you're kind of hoping it pays off big, particularly in impacting and benefiting the first team in years to come. But then we've got this last thing here, Carney, Chukwuemeka. I mean, this came absolutely out of nowhere, and it was so refreshing to find out about a Chelsea transfer from Chelsea themselves, rather than it being known for weeks and weeks, and we go back and forth and all the speculation now. I mean, very rarely when a player is announced by a club do we not know about it, basically. It's felt very old-fashioned. It's just the players there. It's been done swiftly. Apparently Chelsea getting in front of a lot of clubs, Barcelona being one of them, which of course is a nice little win for Chelsea this summer, on a player who has been hotly rated for a number of years now, really growing through the ranks. I mean, he kind of, I think, grew into prominence from people watching the England under-19s at the European Championships last month. And of course, Harvey Vale set up Chukwuemeka's winner in added time. I think it was really exciting to watch, obviously, that tournament and see some of the Chelsea boys involved. But of course, on that front, a player here in central midfield who a lot of people feel and have been watching, and I definitely suggest go and listen to the Chelsea Spot. They did a podcast sort of special on him today, and I think Alex Goldberg is doing one as well. There's a lot of great articles out there. I'll try and link some below to kind of get a gauge on who he is, kind of his best attributes. He kind of, for Steven Gerrard last season, as he started to break into the Aston Villa squad, he started playing in central midfield. He's kind of played a little bit deeper in a double six, but he kind of has played a little bit further forward. From what I've seen, he kind of does feel like a Loftus-Cheek type, or someone who you'd say maybe operates kind of on a left of a midfield three in the future, or someone that you want want them getting the ball from a central midfield position and kind of bursting through the centre of the pitch and getting into that final third. So I think it's going to be intriguing now to see what Chelsea do, because there are suggestions that he's going to go straight into the first team squad, but you look at the sheer amount of numbers we have in central midfield whilst we're going for De Jong as well. So in a scenario De Jong signed, where is Chukwuemeka going to get these minutes, because he's left Aston Villa in pursuit of those minutes apparently, so there could still be a loan out to, say, a Crystal Palace. I saw one Crystal Palace account getting quite excited. They thought this was going to be their annual loan from Chelsea after Conor Gallagher last year. It may be that case, but I know some people as well who I respect saying that he is ready to go into the first team. And you look across Europe, you look at the way, say, Bayern Munich sometimes integrate these young players they buy into the first team instantly, and Jamal Musiala is a great example. Chelsea could have a gem here, they really could, and really develop them internally rather than sending them out on loan. We'll have to wait and see, but it absolutely, for 20 million for a player that I think a lot of clubs wanted and could turn out to be one of England's brightest stars in the coming years, Chelsea, this could be a massive deal in years to come. It really could. So really exciting to see that done, another signing. But that is it for today's video. We just wait to see now, don't we, in terms of potential news and breaking news. I think that Cucurella, fingers crossed that Chelsea can reach an agreement on him. Again, we then move on to Levi Colwill, what happens to his future, but Malang Sarr seems like it's pretty close to Monaco. And then, of course, we get so close now to the weekend and the Everton game and what Thomas Tuchel is going to be planning for that game, and hopefully Chelsea can win at Goodison Park for the first time in 5 years. I've got some exciting previews coming up, obviously looking ahead to not only Saturday's game against Everton, but the whole season. So just kind of looking ahead to what is a very, very unpredictable season for Chelsea. So I'm going to have a guest on tomorrow to kind of discuss that. And of course, I'll be keeping up to date on the news and Chelsea, and hopefully we'll have some new signings to speak about as well. Thank you guys for watching. Follow me on Twitter at SonOfChelsea, and I'll see you again very soon. All the best.